Today we're going to draw a nice shiny apple with a worm coming out of the side of it. So you'll need a pencil and an eraser to get started. Okay, so to start our apple, we're going to draw a circle. We're going to draw it very lightly because parts of it will be erased. So very lightly, you're just going to draw a circle in the middle of the paper. There we go. Now, to change this circle into an apple shape, we're going to give it just a little bit of a dip in the top. It's almost like a smile right there. Just see that little tiny smile? We're going to make that little dip right there in the top. And this is going to be the first time we erase. So we're going to use our eraser and we'll erase just the very top part of that circle. There we go. So we're left with this circle shape, but it has that little dent in the top. That helps us get that apple shape on there. Then we're going to repeat this shape underneath. We're going to make another little smile right underneath. There we go. Just a slight little smile. And this is going to be the center of our apple where the stem will come out. So now we're going to draw a straight line. Notice it's at a little bit of an angle, and that's okay. And on top, I'm just going to put a little dash, just a little tiny dash. And there's my apple. Now we're going to give that stem a leaf. So I'm going to start way up here on the stem, not way down here. I want the leaf to be up this part because I'm going to leave the apple so I can color it later. And I'm going to come out and make a big shape and come back. We've used that shape before. We call it a teardrop. It looks like a circle or an oval, but the end of it comes to a point, and that's where it's going to attach to the apple. We'll draw a center line down the leaf, and then maybe just some veins in the leaf coming out in one direction, and then some veins coming out in the other direction, maybe just a couple more for good measure. There we go, that's all we need. So we have a pretty good looking apple here. But let's make a worm coming out of the apple. So our worm is going to come out of the side of the apple and raise his head up right around here. Just so you have some idea of where we're heading. Right in there. So on the side of the apple, I'm going to make a C. There we go. That's going to be the hole that the worm will crawl out of. Now watch this line. The apple's going to come out and raise his head up high and stop. Then on the other side, he'll do the same thing. And we're going to try to keep this distance all the way up. So he's going to come out and raise the back of his head up high. This one's going to go tall, tall, tall to the top of his head. So do you see how it's the same distance all the way around? We don't want to make them too skinny in one place. And we know that the apple is behind the worm. So again, we're going to just erase that little pencil line right there so that the apple is behind the worm and we can't really see it anymore. The worm is on top of the apple. Now we're going to draw his head. So I'm going to start at the tall line, not the short one, the tall line. And I'm going to give him a nice big nose. There we go. He has a big nose on there. I'm going to use a circle for his eye. There's a pretty big circle. And you know we always like to put a little pupil inside of there. So you can give him a little pupil inside of his eye. And then I'm going to give him some sections Worms a lot of times are made in different sections as they grow. So I'm going to put just some very short little slight lines down his back. Not too close together. Just a couple down his back there, so that he looks like he has sections. Now this is a really nice fun worm. So I'm going to give him a hat. A hat, you say? Yes. So I'm going to start at the top of his head, and I'm going to make an oval shape, around and back. You can see how that oval will be just like that. However, the part that is behind his head will not show. So it looks like he has an oval on top of his head there. Then I'm going to just, again, remember how we repeated this line to match this line? We're going to do the same thing. Here's this line on his hat. We're going to just repeat it so that his hat has a little brim. There we go. And on top is easy. It's just going to be a dome, half a circle right there. There we go. And again, I'm going to repeat this line and give him a little band for decoration. And then just for the fun of it, I'm going to put a flower in his hat. He's a fancy little worm, and he has a little tiny flower in his hat. There we go. And on the apple, I'm going to make it shiny on one side. So I'm going to put a circle and then just one more smaller circle. I'm going to leave it just like that. I'm going to outline it with my Sharpie pen, and then we'll come back and color it. He looks pretty good. I think this time I might use my crayons to color my apple and my worm. You use whatever you have available. I'm going to show you this a little bit faster. So are you ready? Let's go. I'm going to leave the eye white, and I'm going to leave the little highlights or shiny part of the apple white. Other than that, I'm going to color everything else on the worm, apple, and leaf. Here we go. So there we go. He's all colored up. So now I'm going to show you just a couple of things to help him look a little bit more three-dimensional. One is he's floating around. And remember, sometimes we like to add that ground line. This time, I'm just going to put a little bit of shading underneath my apple. But I'm going to make sure my lines are horizontal. I don't want to shade vertically. So I'm going to just give him a little bit of shading right underneath horizontally. So you can see that. And then I'm going to give him a little bit of shading on the opposite side of the highlight. So if the light hits the apple on this side, it'll be shaded on that side. So I'm going to just carefully go around the edge of that apple. And I'm going to make my purple go right on top of my red. Now, if you have a green apple, then you can do the same thing and just put some purple right on top of the green. And then I'm going to shade inside this little smile. That helps it make it look like it goes down into the apple, which of course that's what the stem does. Now, my worm is yellow, so I'm going to use orange because I know yellow is in orange, and that will help a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just shade my little worm on one side, just so he looks a little bit round. And then I'm even going to shade the bottom part of his hat. So I'm putting one layer of crayon right on top of the other layer. And that way he looks a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay? So you can just kind of play around with this a little bit and see how that all comes together. All right, by layering some colors. Have fun with this. Go eat an apple today. You know the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.